Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have O3 Mining on. We have their CEO, Jose Vizquera, on. Jose, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Jerry, thank you very much for having us in your program.
Where are you located? You in Toronto?
I'm in Toronto, yes.
And I'm assuming that's where headquarters are and the offices for O3?
Correct. That's where we are.
Let's start with really high level, just introducing O3 to the company or to the audience. Sorry, just who they are. Main projects, things like that.
So O3 Mining, it's an exploration and development company based in Quebec with two main assets in Val d'Or, which is the Valley of Gold in Quebec, in the main Abitibi trend, the one of the most important greenstone belts in the world. We have two assets, Marban and Alpha, and we have a total amount of 4 million ounces between our two assets. And the most developed asset, the most developed is Marban, where we already have a pre-feasibility study that shows $463 million net present value, with over 20% IRR. And not less important, our market cap today is around $100 million, and we have between cash and equivalents around $40 million, which means that there is a fantastic opportunity for investors at this moment to look into this company.
Are you seeing more movement over the last while, as obviously mining now, even mainstream, has really, people are really seeing the demand for it, the need for it. Are you seeing more interest from investors, even like I know the projects are in Quebec, but in Ontario, the government there has been outright supporting of getting mines going. Is that shifting it? Are you seeing that movement from investors?
I think investors are moving back into precious metals, slowly but surely. And I think part of that has been what we have seen in terms of movement on the indices initially, and then on the major mining companies. And it has always been like that for years. No, there is a pattern and a repetition on when investors come in and play the market, especially precious metals. No, so we saw it in the 80s, we saw it in the initial 2000s, we saw it back again into 2010 to 2012. We saw it again with the pandemic, and now we're seeing it again. So, this is a cyclical business, and it will happen. And usually when it runs with engine. So we have to be prepared for that.
Sorry, can you clarify? So what is that pattern? You said that when the producers do, I just missed what you said, the pattern.
There is a clear pattern when the market turns into the precious metals sector.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the first ones to go up are first indices, then the major companies, which are the producers,
right,
then developers, then the explorers.
Right.
So it's like a waterfall.
Yeah, is the actually before we get into a little more about the projects, we're going to talk about the project specifically a bit more. But what's your story? How did you come to end up being the CEO of O3, and I guess how has that experience been for you, being the CEO?
Well, I have been in the mining industry, I would say, pretty much since I was born. I was born and raised in Peru, a mining country. My grandfather started in the mining industry in 1953, forming a company called Compañía de Minas Buenaventura, which we still hold as a family around 30% of the company. We operate 8 mines. And in 2011, I decided that I wanted to build my own future. So I joined the Osisco group of companies, managing initially 2 projects in Latin America. Subsequently to that, we took those 2 companies really and refocused that company into exploration in Quebec. And as part of that, we formed what is today Osisco Mining, a $1.1 billion company with the most important asset in Quebec called windfall.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2020, we decided that it was the right time to do a spin out of the assets that we were not getting any value at at Cisco mining. So we formed O3 mining in order to highlight the value of our main assets, including Marvan, Alpha, and Garrison, which now is together with Moneta Gold, and we have an equity position there.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide, and Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, and easier. We are heading to events across North America, Africa, and Australia, and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. The metals and mining industry bears a significant responsibility for meeting the dual challenge of growing demand for resources and rising standards of living from an increasing global population, while also addressing the sustainability goals of the future. Aspen Technology is here to partner with industry leaders and help them achieve those objectives with solutions in areas of advanced process controls and asset performance management that utilize artificial intelligence and machine learning to optimize their mining operations for both profitability and environmental responsibility. With Aspen Tech, you'll not only reduce downtime and improve safety, but also minimize waste, lower emissions, and improve operational efficiencies. Their expert team is always available to provide support and guidance, ensuring that you reach your operational and sustainability goals. Aspen Tech, empowering the metals and mining industry to meet the dual challenge. Learn more at aspentech.com. SafeSite has developed a suite of innovative technologies focused on step change improvements that impacts vertical mining, shaft measurement, underground mapping and survey, mine rescue, and emergency response underground. SafeSite solutions introduce new possibilities in approach and efficiency while keeping every site safer. SafeSite solutions deliver valuable data that can quickly be turned into actionable decision data that allows effective and safe operation. Digital guide alignment will reduce shaft maintenance costs, underground mapping drone technology that removes shadows for 100% accurate reconciliation, and mine rescue drones that extend the reach and range of responders on surface and underground. Visit safesitexp.com for more info. The Maintenance, Engineering, and Reliability Mine Operations Conference and Trade Show, MEMO, is back in Saskatoon September 17th to 20th. Join us for live interaction with maintenance engineers and mine operators. This year, the theme of MEMO 2023, The Next Level, reflects the significant changes to the industry in the past few years. Registrations are open. Visit memo2023.cim.org to register and explore sponsorship and exhibit opportunities.
Choosing to sort of continue that legacy, what is it? What is it about mining that keeps you coming back for more?
Well, I think it's a matter of purpose. It's a matter of transforming a natural resource into something that has value and be able to do it properly. When we think about gold, gold not always comes from the best places. I mean, there is a lot of areas where gold comes from, which is not well done, where there is a lot of things that you really want to avoid. So if we can be part of contributing with good gold, if you want to call it, I want to be part of that.
Mm-hmm. Could you again? We're going to talk lots about O3, but just for anybody who doesn't know, we have this is a YouTube show, so we have people that are very much from the mining world, and then there's people that they might have stumbled across this video that don't know anybody that works in mining, but maybe they're an investor. So I just want to give some context. When you talk about mining in Peru, um, how would it compare? Like, how are their operations, their regulations? Would it be I mean, obviously it's a different environment, but is it comparable to Canada in the way that they operate?
Today it is. For sure it is. I think actually Peru probably is even more strict in terms of regulations. But certainly it's very different, Peru and Canada, from some places in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
where there is abuse of children, and where there is abuse of women, and where people are not well treated, and where there is a lot of use of mercury and a lot of destruction of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, clearly, we are in a position where we have to make the point that we are doing the proper job by paying proper wages, by following the regulations in terms of environment, by making sure that we have a closed circuit, by making sure that gold is being produced properly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what excites me, really. The
Right.
opportunity of transforming dirt into gold properly.
Right. Is that, I mean, I know it goes without saying, but maybe just expand on it. That must be frustrating for you as a CEO with assets and projects in environments like Canada, coming from Peru, where the standard is higher, and then seeing operators essentially putting product into the market in a way that they shouldn't be. Um, how do you sort of approach that and say, I guess advocacy is not really the word I'm looking for, but how do we get minds like yours online faster so they're the ones that are putting product into the market and not these horrendous videos that we're seeing coming out?
The reality is that things takes time, Jerry, and it doesn't have to do only with regulators. I think if they want to, they could accelerate things. But the reality is that if you want to do the proper things, there are different studies that you have to do and will take time.
Right.
For example, if you're going to be doing the baseline studies, the way we work the baseline studies, we have to take samples in the 4 different seasons. No? So you take samples in the summer, in the winter, in the autumn, and in the spring. And you do that 2 times. That it's already 2 years.
Right.
But if you don't do that, you don't really know how the environment behaves. You need to know how the environment behaves in year 1 and year 2. So then you have a better sample of how you're going to be managing this and making sure that that baseline is not moved. So if we want to do the proper job, if I'm going to be here to say that we want to be different, we have to behave different. And yes, maybe after 2 years and having all the information, if we're not getting the things faster, maybe we can point fingers to institutions. But at this time, it's not the case. We are just going through the process of getting all the information in order to move into production.
With Fender Dunlop, you know you are getting the best conveyor belting in the market. That's because they ensure the integrity of their conveyor belting by monitoring each step of the manufacturing process in their North American facilities. Focused attention is given to each belting order to guarantee that they produce a belt that will assist the customer in reducing operation costs, maximizing uptime, and improving revenue. Visit FenderDunlopAmericas.com to learn more. Created and designed by industry leaders with decades of frontline experience, Sophie is a platform that brings workers home every day. Give your workforce the communication tools they need on the job to do it safely and productively. Visit Sophie.com today to discover how you can leverage Sophie to increase efficiencies, mitigate risk, and optimize collaboration. Safer, smarter, Sophie. Mind Vision Systems is a mining technology company focused on providing actionable insights from the digitization of a mine. When a mine is digitized, predictive insights become possible. Mind Vision's flagship product, the Face Capture TM mapping system, is a differentiated solution that has a direct impact on production, efficiency, and worker safety. Face Capture is designed for the ore control geologists that make multiple daily decisions impacting the direction and profitability of a mine. Precise and real-time information provided by Face Capture optimizes decision making. Face Capture is designed to eliminate trade-offs between time, precision, and worker safety. Visit mindvisionsystems.com for more information.
How do you approach it? Just the development of the company. The people, the assets, the finance. So what's sort of your overall approach?
That's very interesting. So I'm going to assume that we're talking not only to individuals that are in the mining industry, but individuals that don't know about mining. And the way things starts is by identifying an area from where you believe could be any potential for gold. Obviously, you would look for areas that are close to other deposits because that's the easier thing to do. Then you will do geochemistry, which will tell you chemically where gold could be. Then you will do geophysics, where then physically you will try to identify areas that has more potential. And then what you will have to do is to do your first drill hole. And the drill hole is essentially the drilling of a particular area. In fact, I will show you here. Assuming this is what you want to discover, you have to cross through here and you need to know what rock is coming out from here. And where it says 03, imagine for a second that's the area of gold that you would like to extract. So you really need to hit through there in order to know if gold is there. And the next step is to essentially drill it very closely, so you have a better idea of the volume. Once you have the volume, then you can start thinking about how you're going to mine it. And that's the next step. So we have gone through three: from identifying an area, drilling it, quantifying it, moving it into the engineering part of it, putting some numbers in terms of the operating cost and the capital expenditures. And now we're moving towards the feasibility study, which means the last part where we will have the studies finished, and then we'll have to look for essentially for what we call the last financing part. Essentially, it's the last part of it, and then we'll begin production by 2027. So that project financing is the last part that we would look for.
I didn't realize that was your target. That's 2027 is your goal.
Yeah.
Now the Marban and the Alpha project, how close are they together? Like, are they, what would be the setup if is the goal to get
two different projects? They are not far, tens of kilometers one from the other, but I mean, Marban is a standalone project. We have already a pre-feasibility study done there, which means that we have drilled it every 35 meters, and we have a very clear idea what is in there, and we are intending to produce around 160,000 ounces of gold per year. Have in mind that today gold price is around $1,960 per ounce, so you will be producing a lot of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And then our operating cost is assumed around $900 or 822 or so. So let's say 900. So there is a very good margin there for our investors as we moved into production.
So that would be
a fantastic opportunity. No?
So that would that be open pit then? That one?
It will be an open pit. Yeah, it will be like a quarry.
And so then the processing plant would be at the Marban setup, and then right, like you'd have the full processing facility there, right?
So that's a good question. Right now, as a standalone project, that means by ourselves building it, we will have to build a plant on site for 16,000 tons per day.
Okay.
However, one thing that we must have in consideration is the fact that one of the largest gold mining companies is only 12 kilometers by road from us.
I see.
They are Agnico Eagle. Agnico Eagle is a company of $25 billion market cap. We are $100 million Canadian company.
Mm-hmm.
And Agnico has openly stated in a press release saying that they are going to be running out of ore on the open pit by 2027.
I see.
And they are going to have excess of capacity at their mill of 40,000 tons per day, where it opens the opportunity, and not the certainty, but the opportunity that we could work collaboratively with them, and therefore we could process our ore there, and that will reduce our capex dramatically. But of course, we don't control that, and that's something that we'll have to continue to work on that route as well.
Right, but that's
maybe at the end we don't have to build the plant. That's
right. It's just a possibility. Yeah, no, that's very. I was reading that. That's very interesting. Is that a common thing to happen? That a mine will release that, say, hey, we're going to look low on ore. We might have capacity if we have any takers. Anybody wants to send us their ore? Is that common? I know it happens in like refinery stuff.
Yeah, the reality is that in natural resources, the resource is finite, right? So you will do your plan on as a standalone on, producing and then closing the mine.
Yeah.
In fact, one very interesting thing that we have seen in Val d'Or, the Valley of Gold in Quebec, where we operate, Canadian Malartic, which today, as we speak, is the largest gold mine in Canada, was a mine that was closed in the 1980s. They ran out of ore. the Camflo mine, the first mine from buried gold, which is half in Agnico's property, $25 billion company, half at O3 Mining company, was the first mine from Barrick in the 1980s. And then it was stopped. And now Agnico is thinking about doing an open pit there. So back into production, because now technology has changed. Now you can produce things that were 1 gram that before were not profitable, but now they are. The Sigma Lamaque mine went into closure in the 1980s and was rediscovered by Integra, and now it's part of the main assets of El Dorado, a company that is worth $1.6 billion. West Dome and the mine of Kina was closed again in the 1970s, and now it's turned on again back into production. They just found a new area with high grade, and they are back into production. So there is certainly a circular economy, and yeah, I would tell you that, you know, one of the most important things in the world today, one of the most important assets, is to have a mill with permits. And that allows you to, if you run out of your own ore, either to buy the companies around you, or at least to process the ore from others, so you can, you know, level your costs.
Wait, from now until 2027, what is the big hurdle? Again, this is with the understanding that now the environment is really turning mining friendly, and I mean, I, like anybody, don't have a crystal ball, but I cannot imagine that is not, the demand is not going to be, I mean, just statistically, for the demand not to go up, governments, investors, operators would all have to go, they basically have to reverse everything we built towards, you know, electrification and all these types of things. So it's kind of a safe assumption to say the demand's going to go up. What is going to be the big hurdle to get, let's just stick with the Marben project, to get that online and to turn it into an operating mine?
I think this is going to be a step-by-step process, on the environmental side, on the social side, on the economical side. Where we are today, we have taken the project from identifying a deposit in the 1990s to today, where we have essentially de-risked the project in terms of where we could be. And we have a project that today is worth $463 million. Our job is to keep finding gold. So this baseline from where we are talking about is, again, our market cap is $100 million. Our project today is at $463 million. I better do it like this.
Market cap.
So this is the opportunity of closing the gap as we speak. And this is at $1,700 gold. So if gold keeps going up, this keeps doing this.
Right.
But on top of that, we are finding more ore, which means that if we put it into the program or into the cash flow, then you're talking about this gap. So all what we're doing is right now maximizing the fundamental value of the company from here to here. And that's what you will see in the next couple of years, is us keep increasing the resources, showing that the base case, which is the 463, really could be more. And I think the regulators doesn't allow me to talk about how much more, but more, because here is where we are, and we keep finding gold. So this can just keep going and growing higher and higher, and that's our job. And then on top of that, we keep advancing with the environmental side of things. We keep advancing with the socialization of our project, and having the acceptation at the end from the municipalities, from the regional, from the federals, from the communities, from the First Nations, from the citizens, from the labor. So at the end, we have to work on all these fronts. And if we think about what are going to be the catalysts, I think it's very clear. One of them is keep adding gold. The other one is advancing on the environmental side of things, showing that we're not stopping, that we are moving very fast, showing that there is progress with regards to our relationship with citizens, the municipality, the First Nations, Shanibek, and then, of course, not less important, to show that we will have the money to build this project.
Yeah, and I wanted to let's start with community, environmental governance. Let's keep on that, and then I want to go into the finance side of it. So How are you approaching that, just as a company overall, as a CEO, and then down through the company? How are you approaching things like relationships with the indigenous groups around in the area, and just also give us the lay of the land, the communities close by, indigenous groups, municipalities, friendliness to the mining community in those areas, just that whole lay of the land.
Yeah, so we are again in Valdor, the Valley of Gold. So it's an area where mining has been there for decades, I'd say even centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So there is knowledge about mining, and that's certainly an advantage. Um, we have two main municipalities, the municipality of Malartic and the municipality of Valdor, both of them used to the mining industry, which is a fantastic thing. And I take it with a lot of humbleness in the relationship that I have with them, humbleness in the relationship that I have with the citizens, because citizens are not necessarily in the mining industry. So we have to be very humble on explaining what we're intending to do and showing the benefits of this project. This is certainly a circular economy where we are adding value into the region, and that's where we have to make sure that everyone understands what we're trying to do and that we're part of the solution to this environment rather than anything else. And First Nations, of course, extremely important. They have been working together with the mining industry for a number of years, and we'll have to be again super humble and open with them. As part of that, even if my first language is Spanish and took a lot of effort to learn English, I have devoted for the past 3 years to learn French, so I could have a direct conversation with them and be able to explain what we're intending to do from a matter of respect, from coming from, again, from humbleness, assuming that the best way to communicate is if we can speak the same language. So that has been on the social side, and we have been doing different workshops where we have been able to invite the different authorities and citizens and First Nations, and we have been going through what we are intending to do. We have sent letters to the First Nations on what we are working, so they are aware, and nothing is a surprise. At the end, as anyone, you really want to know what's going on in your backyard. So our job is to communicate the best we can.
That you mentioned the word humbleness a few times, so I'll zero in on that. That now again, you're you're third generation in mining, is that right?
Yes.
So where did you learn that? And I'm always interested in these types of topics because for actually not even the younger audience, anybody who's trying to grow professionally at any age, I'm always curious how much is a natural part of who that person is, personality, and how much is they realized a need for a certain skill. And being humble is a skill in many cases, because it's easy to get pushed away from being humble. That approach to community and communication, is that something that was passed down to you, something that you developed, in your professional career, something you naturally had? Where do you think that comes from, and how did it grow?
I think it comes from the family, in the sense that I do believe that you are the representation of the people that surrounds you. If you surround with bad people, more likely you're not going to be a good person. Um, as I was growing up, we always had these lunches at my grandparents' house, Saturdays on my mom's side, on Sundays on my dad's side, and those conversations where you were seated as a kid, and you were seated in the big table really allow you to hear what was going on in general in the country, in the world, and allow you to make your own judgment on what is the kind of behavior you want to have in order to move things forward. And one of them was being transparent and candid and open and humble. You gain much more by being transparent, direct, and humble than not. So I think it was written in the wall. If you want to succeed, might as well you make sure that you are standing in the ground and not in the skies.
Right. And so naturally as a kid, were you listening to these conversations? I remember being a kid, and some
I
kids seem to kind of
always
wander off. I would be
fascinated by
right in
that.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I have learned so much without knowing that I was learning.
Yeah.
you would hear these stories about these companies coming to make an offer and how they negotiated, or how did they say no thank you but thank you, and how to be
Mm,
you know very straightforward, but at the end respectful of others. No, it always fascinated me, and then as I grew up, at least in the case of my grandfather, Alberto Benavides, he was able to write his own memoir that was shared with the grandkids and nephews, which are fantastic. And as I was reading them, like some of them I was alive and I was actually living them, which was
mm.
really fascinating.
And then to tie that back to engaging with the community, that it just you're talking about, these family lunches and being with both sides of the family and hearing these conversations, and even that your grandfather took the time to write a memoir and share that with everybody, that engagement with his family, and that family tie that must then transfer when you're engaging. I mean, I grew up around indigenous communities, and so that sense of family, and that big families. So there's a lot of relations between, like, an entire community. There'll be two or three big last names that sort of connects everyone, and it's very much a part of the culture. Of course, I'm not speaking for their culture, but just growing up around it and seeing it. Um, that would carry a lot of weight, I would imagine. Being able to speak the language or not, people can see when you appreciate where they're coming from.
Absolutely. And at the end, it's a matter of respect to the First Nation, to the citizens, to the community in general, to the human being, but also to nature, and
Mm.
understanding by nature every single aspect of it. How you're taking care of it, how you're gonna do it. Is this the most efficient way you can do it? Is this the best for everyone? And again, I think that is part of doing proper mining.
Well, you mentioned nature, and to then jump to the environmental side. Being in the area you are, there is, with so much, I would imagine, a lot of knowledge in the area, a lot of operations. That must give you an environment to really be able to maximize the way that you deliver on the environmental side, because you have a standard already within that region. I'm sort of making that assumption, and I'll maybe get you to expand on it more.
Jerry, yes. And again, talking about this topic about being part of the solution, part of this circular economy, it's also being part of this circular environment in a sense.
Mm,
This, as I explained to you, some of these areas where we operate were old mines before, and the practices that we do today were not necessarily the practices that were done before.
right.
So there is a lot of areas that were impacted. That now, as we go in, we will be, recovering those areas even before we start,
Mm,
which will be a win-win
right.
for everyone, for the municipalities because they will not have to do it. We'll have to do it. For the First Nations, so they can participate on how we're going to be doing and working on this, and the same thing with the citizens and everyone that has been impacted around us. No.
Just quickly, I want to talk about the finance side before we wrap up. But just quickly, sort of the pit to port transportation area. I'm again, I've never actually have been to the area, so these are just honest questions. What is the setup for transportation and that in that whole area delivery?
No, we have a main road there. There is a railroad there where Agnico has been talking openly on trying to work on an integrated path
Mm,
for the railroad, which will be a solution for us as well.
great.
So in terms of infrastructure, Valdor has that luxury. No, I mean you have airports, railroads, roads. You have energy, hydroelectric energy, even
Hmm.
better, and water. So it's a very unique scenario in that regard with regards to infrastructure. It's really really cool.
Finance. What is you talked a little bit about it, but sort of where are things? Just we'll just circle back to it. Where are things at? Where do you hope to get to with these projects over the next, like, not the 2007 production, but over the next few years? What are the goals?
So as soon as we finish the feasibility study, we would like to have the project financing in place. We have been working on that now for several months with different groups, mostly out of the UK, and we will see how that progress. I mean, I think the very big difference will be by, say, the end of this year, next year, we will know if we will need to fund all the project or fund all the project, but not the processing plant, because as I mentioned, Agnico has space in their plant and tailings. So we will know by the end of the year if we have to fund either $435 million or less. And I don't want to put a number because we just have internal numbers right now, but certainly it will be much more beneficial for our shareholders if we're able to do that.
But you look at the process with an in-house processing plant, the numbers are still good. It just they could be a little bit better if you maybe don't. Either way,
the numbers are great.
Yeah.
Just by ourselves, they can just be astronomically better.
Right. You don't have that.
So right now, as I mentioned before, I mean, the way to look at it is what's our enterprise value, and roughly you can say $40 million Canadian. And what is the fundamental value of the project? $435 million. $463 million, sorry. So in that regard, you're already talking about 10 times from where we are on a fundamental value basis.
Right. And what are the next now project wise? Again, I mean, you're by far beyond me in expertise in the mining industry. So just clarify over the next couple of years, what are the projects? What are the next stages? Are there more drilling programs? Your feasibility studies? What is going to be taking place in the next couple of years?
We will continue to convert resources in the areas where we have inferred resources. For those that don't know about that, initially we drill every 100 meters. And then the next phase is to drill every 35 meters. So we know exactly what the volume is. So then you can have an idea if you're going to take it all as an open pit, or if you're just going to come surgically to take the gold and then out.
Right.
So we will continue to drill. We'll continue to find gold. We'll continue to advance the environmental side of things, which are the baseline studies, which we finished. We're doing just geotechnical work right now. We're doing metallurgical work. We continue to have these meetings with all the groups that are integrated with Marvan, and advancing again the communication in order to be ready to produce by 2027. Very interesting. I mean, if we want to produce by 2027, by 2024, we should hit the ground running to get the permits ready. So we need the feasibility to be done by then.
I don't think I asked power. How are these? What are the power sources for that area?
There is hydroelectric power from Quebec. Quebec is one of the largest power generators in the world. I mean, right now Quebec is essentially, giving power to New York.
Right. Workforce in that area, is that pretty available? When you actually
that is circular economy.
Yeah.
By the time that Canadian Malartic, finish their operations, there will be labor force that will be essentially out of the job, and then we come as part of the solution. They can move to Marvan to work at the open pit.
And I'll wrap up with just a team question. What kind of team have you developed? Some key players on the O3 mining team that are helping keep the ship going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're going back to this idea of the three legs. No, we have a great project, as I explained to you. It's financeable, and the third part is the team. So without those three things doesn't work. So with regards to the team, I have been blessed with the group that I have working with me. We have Louis Gariepi as our Vice President of Exploration, someone who has worked for over 20 years with Anglo American, one of the largest mining companies in the world. We have Jean-Félix Lapage, who has worked for Goldcorp at the Eleanor mine, one of the most important mines from Newmont today. Mirza Bello has worked is working with us. She worked for SNC Lavalin, which is one of the most important environmental firms in the world. So with that, we have on top of that Alex Rodriguez coming from Glencore and Elia Terchinsky, who has worked previously in the banking system and also with teachers. So we have a very competent group moving this project forward, and allowing us to do the proper work now.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. And last question, I promise. So, how's the French? So, you've been taking it for 3 years. How would you rate? How would you rate it
Très
now?
bon, mon ami. J'ai appris le français très bon. Pas de problème en français.
Well, I can tell you my French is abysmal at best. You're doing much better than me. No,
It's going very well.
no. Thank you very much, Jose. It's great to have you on. I certainly hope this is not the last time you're featured on Mining Now, because from what I can see, there's a lot of potential in this project, and it's a great region. It's a great setup, and again, I think we're going to see a lot more mines coming online here. So I certainly look forward to following the O3 mining story.
You should. Again, the downside is very well balanced, it's very well managed, and the upside, I think it's in front of our eyes. So it really depends on investors to do their own job on analyzing what I have said, on confirming what I have said, and make their decision if they want to join us in this road trip.
Yes, and we will put links to that. And where do you trade on?
We trade in the Toronto Stock Exchange venture, and also in the OTCQX in the US.
Okay, and we will make sure that information is all in the description below for the viewers. Jose, thank you very much for the information, and hope to get you back again soon.
Thank you very much for your time, and it has been a pleasure to spend some time with you guys.
Thank you.
All the best.
And thank you to the audience for watching this. Again, we'll put links to all the information below so that if you want to look at it for yourself, you can go through all the information. Thank you for watching. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.